What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here is Legitico Response, and folks, today I got some more transparency coming in for you. CBS just screwed themselves. Their ratings are going to plummet. Folks, these people manipulate the crap out of you on a constant basis. And I'll tell you what, right quick, I try to do this early in the video. I usually don't do it till the end, but if y'all could, and I'm gonna keep it brief, do me a big favor, smash that like button for me, because YouTube loves to keep me in a box, as you can tell by my viewer count. They love to keep me off, tucked away, so you can't get this type of information, right? So smash that like button for me if you don't mind. It would greatly, I would greatly appreciate it. I'll put it that way. And if you're new around here, smash that subscribe button for me, please, if you don't mind, because it really helps the channel, helps this channel to grow, to get the facts out there to you guys for what we're about to see, because what you're about to witness is utter insanity. Of course, you probably already know this is going on, and what I got coming in for you folks is some garbage coming from CBS. These people don't want you having all the information, the mainstream news, right? This is outright crazy if you ask me, but it's very standard protocol for the mainstream news. They don't want you having all the information. They want to keep the pertinent information away from you, especially information that makes the current administration, the Biden administration, look bad. What they're doing to people everywhere, constantly. It's manipulative. It's totally manipulative. I'll say it correctly that time. Manipulative, the way they do things. Check this out, y'all.
So that's a different accounting than this 2% you say was distributed.
Yeah, so they've obligated some funds, but they've only distributed 2%. The rescue and recovery effort's still going on, and then we address the rest of it.
So that's a different accounting than this 2% you say was distributed.
Yeah, so they've obligated some funds, but they've only distributed 2%. And when I was there on the ground, and you should go, I mean, bring the cameras and talk to the people there. They'll tell you, don't take politicians' words for this or the administration's word. Talk to the people there on the ground. They had not been provided the resources almost 2 weeks out from the storm that they desperately needed. And when I was there, 13 days post the storm hitting that state, people are still being rescued. They're stuck in the higher elevations in the mountains because the roads are down and all the rest. So they need every available resource and all hands on deck. The rescue and recovery effort's still going on, and then we address the rest of it.
Okay, so that was a lot of pertinent information, right? Like telling these people that, hey, look, they're not getting the resources they require, for crying out loud. And it's the Biden administration not doing this. Why they would cut that out? When I first saw this, I was thinking, well, maybe he just rambled on about some garbage, about some, utter nonsense. But then I started listening to it, and I'm like, what the hell, man? He's like going in on the Biden administration here, saying, look, they're not getting the resources they need, blah, 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 blah. You heard the clip. That's craziness, if you ask me. He started talking about all kinds of stuff right there. Like, because it makes the Biden administration look bad, they don't want you to know this. So just be aware of this anytime you're watching the mainstream news, because the mainstream news, I call it the mainstream narrative machine, because that's exactly what they are, because they're constantly pumping out a specific narrative that benefits Democrats and makes Republicans, and especially Orange Man, look bad, right? It's constant, right? I got another clip, as a matter of fact. Check this out.
You heard some of the language that Mr. Trump used over the weekend. What do you think of this idea of, quote, we have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. Is that something that you support?
Jake, first of all, thank you for having me. And I guess what I want to just make very clear is that it's my belief that what former President Trump is talking about are the people that are coming over the border, that in fact are committing crimes, that are bringing drugs, that are trafficking humans, and that are turning every state into a border state. And I'm a governor of a state that is not near the southern border, and yet I see the impacts of 10 million people illegally coming across the border every single day. 5 Virginians die on average from fentanyl overdose. We have folks that have crashed, the illegal immigrants that have crashed the front gate at Quantico in a box truck, trying to gain access to Quantico. And we've had Virginians who have been subjected to sexual assaults by Venezuelan gang members. So to say that this isn't happening, Jake, is just not fair to Americans. And so it is happening.
I'm not saying that at all. Obviously, there is a border crisis. Obviously, there are too many criminals who should not be in this country, and they should be jailed and deported completely. But that's not what I'm talking about, because he was talking about sick people, radical left lunatics who should be handled by the National Guard or the military. And then later on in that same speech, he said that one of the lunatics he addressed was Congressman Adam Schiff. That's who he was talking about using the National Guard and military against, radical left lunatics, enemy from within, people like Adam Schiff.
Again.
Okay, so now I will say that Glenn Youngkin is absolutely wrong right here, because check this out.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
You told me back in February that you were going to rent out Madison Square Garden for a rally.
Yeah.
And now you're going to do it at the end of October.
Not only Madison Square Garden, we're taking 4 or 5 arenas. We fill them up very fast, as you know.
Okay, so we can clearly see who Trump's talking about right here. They're talking about on Election Day, right? We got a lot of stuff to get into with that. We got to break that down. He's talking about on Election Day. If anybody, tries to start a riot, inside a riot or anything like that, people get out of hand, hey, what's wrong with using the National Guard? Why is he asking, is that okay? Why would that not be okay? If somebody's starting a freaking riot and the National Guard is there, like, why would we not want this? Why would that make anything worse? Like, what's the problem here, Jake Tapper? Are you just trying to get a gotcha out of Glenn Youngkin? Hey, Glenn Youngkin just so happens to be wrong about that, because we can clearly see what Donald Trump is talking about. Yeah, and you notice there was nothing in there about Adam Schiff. Now, I did an exhaustive search for that. I tried to find what Jake Tapper is talking about here, so I will go on to say that what he is saying about Adam Schiff is baseless. I couldn't find that quote anywhere where he was talking about Adam Schiff inciting a freaking riot on Election Day. Like, what are you talking about, Jake, here? Because that sounds ridiculous. That sounds totally insane, if you ask me. Like, why would Adam Schiff be inciting a riot that the National Guard would need to come in and quell on Election Day? Like, this makes no sense, but that's what these people do. They do anything and everything to twist the narrative around to make Donald Trump look bad. They're taking some innocuous statement that Donald Trump said and turning it into this big old deal like, oh, he's talking about the enemy from within, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we have lunatics in this country, right? Forgetting that, hey, there's been a couple of people that have outright tried to kill Donald Trump. We know of at least 3 assassination attempts, and I'm not talking the one that just happened this past weekend. I'm talking about the one that happened a couple of years ago, where a guy tried to run on stage, tried to grab a gun from one of the Secret Service and shoot Donald Trump. Yeah, that happened a couple of years ago. Nobody ever talks about that one. But this assassination plot with Ryan Routh, that was one of the most insane assassination plots because he offered a bounty, right? That's the type of lunatics Donald Trump is talking about. And hey, if need be, what is wrong with the National Guard taking care of that problem? I don't understand these people, but this is what they do. They have to manipulate you into thinking Orange Man bad, right? They take anything and everything he says, right? I went and read an article on this, right? He says, if necessary. but they happen to leave that out of that article. It's crazy what they do to twist Donald Trump's words around. And they were talking about something totally different. Went on to start talking about Madison Square Garden on that clip of Trump. Nowhere in there was he talking about Adam Schiff, and why would Adam Schiff once again be inciting a riot that the National Guard would need to come in and quell on Election Day? Makes no sense to me. These people are utterly insane, but we got a news article to get into. I just wanted to get through all that right quick because these people are trying to manipulate the crap out of you. But we've got other issues, folks. Check this out. Georgia judge rules county election board officials are required to certify election results even if there are fraud error concerns. I almost overlooked this story. I was getting prepared. I was doing all my research and everything, and just so happened to come across this. I had a totally different article slated for this segment. I was going to do something totally different, but I saw this and I'm like, holy crap. This is a crazy story, y'all. Like, this is utter insanity to me. But once again, hey, if I'm like overthinking this or something, let me know down in the comments. A Georgia judge ruled on Monday that local election board members in the state are required to certify election results even if there are concerns of fraud or errors. Now, hang on. Why would there need to be a rule put in place for these election board members to not certify the votes? Like, why would there even be the ability for them to do this? Think about that for a second, because maybe they catch fraud. Maybe they catch people doing some underhanded stuff. Maybe something went wrong with the votes. Like something happened with the machines. Something went down. Blah, blah, blah. You get it. Why is there a provision in the law that says that they have the ability to not certify votes? Because of stuff like this. If they believe there's a bunch of fraud going on, you don't certify the fraudulent votes, for crying out loud. This is common sense. But these people, once again, I always talk about this. I haven't talked about it in a while. But the president is not only a very important figure for domestic policy and foreign policy, and running the military, for crying out loud. That's their main job. They are not legislators, by the way, and I'm tired of having to remind people about that. They're not legislators, but the simple fact that the president of the United States recommends people to be put on the Supreme Court and the federal court circuit, right? They recommend these people. The people that the Biden administration, this is why the Senate is so important too, because they confirm these people. But the Biden administration has been putting nothing but activists on the federal circuit. And it's judges like this who get out there and do some activism for the Democrats because, yeah, look what happened in 2020. All the funny business, all the election rule changes without the approval of state legislatures, right? All the court cases that were turned down upon standing because they said Donald Trump didn't have the right to bring these cases. There was election fraud going on, or what was believed to be election fraud. You know, we found out much later that a lot of that fraud wasn't fraud anymore. Why? Because Democrats changed the rules to make it not fraud anymore, which is insane to me. But this is why this is so important. Putting these activist judges who will get out there and say, you're required by law to certify this election, even if you believe there was fraud or errors made. That's insane to me. How is that allowing for any confidence in our election system there, Mr. Judge? Like, you telling them to have to certify this regardless is insane. It makes me think that y'all are trying to do something underhanded behind the scenes. Now, that's just a conspiracy theory, right? But it's not really, because I'm not, theorizing any sort of conspiracy is going on. But what I am saying is what it looks like, because you're telling them they're going to be compelled by law to certify the election, even if they know there's errors or fraud taking place. How does that give me any sort of confidence in our election systems? This is just insanity to me. Superior Court of Fulton Judge Robert McBurney wrote in his decision, if election superintendents were, as plaintiff urges, free to play investigator, prosecutor, jury, and judge, and so, because of a unilateral determination of error or fraud, refused to certify election results, Georgia voters would be silenced. Our Constitution and our election code do not allow for that to happen. Now, that's one line of logic you could take, but to me, that's very illogical, because at the same exact time, you could argue just the complete opposite, that allowing them or forcing them to certify the election even though they know or there's possibly fraud or errors is actually doing a disservice to all the other people that voted legitimately, that have legal votes. You're discounting all the votes, the legal votes, for the fraud votes. All of those get nullified outright. I know I had trouble saying that. I'm sorry for that, y'all. But like, that could go both directions. You're disenfranchising voters either way. However, you do it one way, you don't certify, you investigate to see where the fraud was, you pull out the fraud, then you certify the votes, nobody gets disenfranchised. But if you certify the votes, even though somebody knows there was fraud, now you're disenfranchising not only the fraudulent votes, but for every fraudulent or error vote there was, a legal vote is now disenfranchised. You now throw out that vote. It nullifies the vote outright. This is crazy, y'all. The case was brought before the judge by Fulton County Election Board member Julie Adams, who said she had the right to refuse to certify the results of an election if she believes the results are incorrect or unreliable because she had taken an oath to prevent any fraud, deceit, or abuse, USA Today reported. Now, yeah, I totally agree with that. If she believes there's fraud, there needs to be just put a stop, finish counting, do whatever you got to do, but we need to go through all of those votes and make sure we eliminate the fraud and then certify the votes. That's how you do that. Yeah, it might take longer, whatever, who cares? We want integrity in our elections. We don't want people being compelled by law to certify votes even though they know there's fraudulent or there's errors. Like, that's insanity to me. And once again, that makes me think that there's some underhanded scheme going on in the background to try to defraud the United States. That's what that sounds like to me. I know that may be a crazy theory that I have, but come on, give me something else. If you guys in the comment section have any other line of logic that can dispel my theories here, please let me know what they may be, because I'm having trouble figuring out why this judge would want somebody to certify election results even though they know that there's fraud or errors. That's insane to me, y'all. McBurney granted a portion of Adams' request in her suit regarding access to documents, stating that if the county election board officials determine they need election information from their staff, it should be promptly provided unless otherwise protected by law or rule. The judge noted, however, any delay in receiving such information is not a basis for refusing to certify the election results or abstaining from doing so. What? Like, I don't understand why that would be the case. Like, if they need pertinent information, why shouldn't they delay the certification? That's just a delay. Like this blows my freaking mind. Like, I'm not a lawyer, guys. Like, so help me out here, seriously. Let me know, like, work it over in your brains, because, more brains are better than one. Work that over in your brain. If there's any reason that somebody believes that they need some more information because they think that there may have been some errors taking place or some fraudulent votes come in, why they should not certify those results, why they should delay the certification. Like, what is wrong with that? The judge said that if members of the county election board discover what appears to be fraud, they are still required to count all the votes, but report concerns to a prosecutor. The ruling came 3 weeks before Election Day, with the state having a deadline of November 12th to certify the results. So, once again, They're not dispelling any of my theories here. They are only adding to those theories. Once again, like, seriously. The judge is ordering these people not to certify the votes if they feel that there was fraud or errors, and then telling them, oh, just tell a prosecutor. Are you freaking kidding me? This comes as some House Democrats have reportedly stated that they are hesitant to certify the results of the election if Trump wins come November. What? Like, that's even more insane. So now we have Democrat election officials out there stating the other one that they refuse to certify it if Trump wins. These people, like they are just sowing nothing but discord when it comes to elections. They want criminal aliens registered to vote, but they say they're not going to vote in the elections. They don't want election officials who have sworn a duty to certify the results, to point out any fraud and all this other garbage that we just talked about. And they don't want them, or they're going to compel them by law to certify the votes regardless if there's fraud or not. And hey, tell a judge, tell a prosecutor. Right? Like, they are really not giving any sort of confidence in our election system here. This is just utter insanity. I don't know if you guys feel the same way I do, like reading all this news out. Once again, the Biden administration and these Democrats, they're going so far, so fast. Most of it makes absolutely no sense. They need to slow down, turn around, come back over here to the playing field, because they have totally left the arena at this point. They have gone off into freaking la-la land where nobody can get in contact with them because there's no freaking cell phone service for them to call them and say, hey, calm down, Democrats. You've lost your freaking marbles here, buddy. You need to come back to reality. Right? You need to come back to logic. Rational thinking is a thing, and we can all think rationally. Even stupid people can think rationally, for crying out loud. Like, I just don't know what to do about all this. Like, I've already decided, look, I'm going to get on YouTube and I'm going to point out all the manipulations of the corporate press. And then, through pointing out the manipulations of the corporate press, I go on to discover that Democrats are sowing distrust in our election system. They're sowing distrust in our judiciary system. They're sowing distrust in our government. They're sowing distrust for everything government, for crying out loud, by doing all this underhanded garbage, BS lawsuits using taxpayer dollars, your hard-earned money, to sue people to keep them off the ballot, to sue people for cleaning up their voter rolls, for crying out loud, which they are required to do by law. They have to do this, so if they don't do it, Democrats will sue them for not doing it. If they do it, they get sued by Democrats. It's utter nonsense coming from these people, and it blows my freaking mind, y'all. But I think I've gone on for long enough on this one. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and share this video with anybody and everybody you can. Tell a coworker, tell a friend, tell your parents, just tell everybody you can. Let them know, get this information out there, because the people need to be informed. We need to have an informed citizenry, for crying out loud, and that is my job. I might rename this channel to Citizens Informed United or something like that, because that's what I seem to be doing these days, is informing you guys of all the underhanded garbage taking place in our government and in our corporate press, for crying out loud. This is getting nuts. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.